Hi folks! Champagne Friday again. Lovely to be here in my home, in my sofa, with my right hand. Björnstiernes, the famous right hand of Richard Julin, they say. But he's so much more than that. And right now, together we've written this book, only in Swedish. Everything you need to know about champagne and a little bit more. In a more humoristic, a little bit more leisure style than I've been writing before. And thanks for that.
You're welcome.
But I felt more that you've seen him many times, but do you know him for real? Björnstiernes, how did it all start for you?
Well, it started in Dresden in 1986. No, of course, it's a very... often it can be quite tricky to say where things start and those kind of things, but I was in my youth very much into sports. I was doing athletics on a very serious level, and I had the misfortune that both my knees, I was very fortunate, no injuries whatsoever for all my career, but within 8 months both my knees got really severely injured, so it was a little bit of a life crisis. So, and in those days the money in the restaurant trade was very, very good. You work on commission, so I started to work, and I was so fortunate. I was doing, I was called into a restaurant they were checking me out, and I did my 6 hours, that service, and the maitre d', he said later on, you know what, can you come back tomorrow? But we want you to work in the fine dining restaurant. And I had not even been to a fine dining restaurant, I didn't know what it was. And it was quite interesting, and I did that the day after, and it was probably the most exclusive restaurant that we ever had in this country. It was 24 seats.
Which one is that?
Les Gargots. So it's a very French restaurant.
Fantastic. One of my first.
24 seats, 3 waiters, 1 head waiter and 1 sommelier. That's how exclusive it was. And I worked there for a year before I touched the wine bottle for the first time. The sommelier was serving 100% of all the bottles. But what he did, he saw that I was very interested in everything. And he collected all the small samples of all the wines that were served each service. So afterwards we were tasting them together, and he told me the story about the origins, the stages of the producer, and those kind of things. And I remember, this is quite interesting, one of the most famous people in the music industry at the time, Thomas Johansson, he was working for Emma Telstar, so he was the promoter of all the famous international Swedish artists that came to Sweden for concerts. And he was dining one night at our place, and they ordered a bottle of 1982 Heidsieck Monopol Diamond Bleu. And the bottle was so crazy, it still looks the same, but specific old school.
We drank it last year with Andreas.
We did.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous one, and that was the first time that I really felt, wow, what is this? So it was a really eye-opener. And in those days, now we talk about 1989, in those days there were only 8 champagnes in the Swedish market.
Yeah.
8.
It's incredible.
It sounds like the 50s. It's crazy. We actually, since we were a small restaurant, we even we went to Denmark by ourselves with the car and bought wines and brought illegally. Now you can't be prosecuted for this anymore, but illegally brought in the wines and put on our wine list. I don't know how stupid we were to even dare, but we were very serious. Yeah. So that was my champagne start. And well, I started to work for other restaurants, and actually our path, now we moved up to just beginning of the millennia. And I started after university to work for a small quality importer that was specialist in Burgundy wines and champagnes from small growers. Because in those days, grower champagnes were never heard of in this country. And it was good friends of yours, and they used your books and all these small producers that you picked up, along the way. So I started working with these guys. And then I went back to the restaurant scene, and you had something that was very interesting called the Champagne Tour. So it was exhibition dinners at, if it was 10 or 12 different restaurants around the country.
70. I remember it was 70. Yeah.
And most of the time you hosted a dinner, let's say it was a Bollinger dinner or Deutsch dinner or something. But when you came to my restaurant, I said, I will gladly have you hosting a dinner at my place. But I don't want to have only one brand. I wanted to showcase these growers. Yeah, so I had 8 dishes, 8 different grower champagnes, and it was a huge success back in those days. So and then small things developed.
Serving at the Millennium Tasting?
The Millennium Tasting, absolutely. I had the fortune to be serving all the champagnes and standing in the background.
Champagne bar?
We opened up a champagne bar as well, and so many things. And in those days, my family moved to Brussels. So for 3 years, I got on the plane on a Friday morning, flew to Stockholm, ran the champagne bar with Rickard and our friends from Champagne Club, closed the restaurant, went downtown for a couple of drinks. 4:20, the taxi went to Arlanda and flew me home to Brussels again for 3 years. It was crazy days.
Great.
And so we've been doing so many fun things over the years, and yeah, we've been traveling, we've been tasting, and Rickard spoke a little bit about the book. There are so much information over the years that you have produced in different formats, and I thought that let's do a fun, like a Q&A, 200 answers and questions. It's like if you go to a dinner. And of course, now we are at the end of the year. You have all these. You have company dinners, you have family dinners, and you have these festive dinners with Christmas and New Year's. And champagne is always served. So the thing is, if you read this book, you have all these fun facts. You can look like a star. I said, Rickard says blah 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 blah. So that's one of the ideas behind the book.
Yeah,
Not a big serious book, more of a fun book.
So now you know him a little bit more, and there are, of course, thousand things more to know, and especially you can join our Champagne tours, the VIP trips to Champagne, or doing even more tastings and hikings in the Champagne Club. So Björn, thank you for being with me and for making this book come true. Cheers.
Cheers.